Hey guys, my name is Sire, and today I'm going to review Pixels, the latest Adam Sandler movie. So today I saw Pixels, and it was an okay movie. It wasn't great. It wasn't terrible. It was okay. But first, let me just tell you guys a story before I get into why I feel this way about it. But as I was getting ready to go, I told my friends I couldn't play games with them because they were asking me because I was going to go see Pixels, and they were like, "Oh, don't bother going. I saw all the reviews. They're all terrible. Don't bother. It's going to be a horror movie. Don't even bother." And I'm like, "What?" So I read some of these reviews, and I'm like, "Wow, there's no way it's this bad. It just can't be." And I look on Rotten Tomatoes. The critic rating is 19% right now, but the fan rating, the actual normal people who watch the movie, is 93%. And I went to see it later. I liked it. It wasn't great. It wasn't the most amazing masterpiece ever created in the history of the universe, but it wasn't nearly even close to being the piece of garbage that these critics are trying to make us believe it is. This is exactly what I hate about critics. It they some of these critics they just go into a comedy movie and they expect the most epic Shakespearean masterpiece in the history of all of literature and media entertainment. It just they go in 10 minutes in. Where the fuck is Hamlet? I don't know what they expect. Amazing acting. They expect the most intricate, complex, well-written plot in the history of life. So I saw one review. It said the okay. I'm not gonna quote the whole phrase, but basically he said the plot was stupid and it didn't really make any sense. What? You mean the movie about aliens who created video game characters to attack the Earth doesn't make sense? What? That's an outrage. I can't. I'm out. I give up. And I'm not saying that a comedy can't be smart because there are plenty of smart comedies out there. But it was never trying to sell itself as a smart comedy. It was right from the start. It was like, you go see this movie for nostalgia and for funny little laughs that don't really make any sense. That's it. And I saw another review. It said, "Oh, I saw a trailer and I thought, oh, that can't be it. Surely there's some secret that we don't know about." The whole point of a trailer is to tell us what we're in for. If you don't like what you see in the trailer, there's a very good chance you won't like the movie. It's exactly what a trailer is designed for. And it'd be one thing if these critics were like, this movie wasn't really for me. It's not exactly what I like. So if you feel different, if you like comedies, then sure, go ahead. But a lot of them, they're trying to sell their opinion as a fact, and I get to some extent that is the point of a critic and a review, but it just doesn't make sense. If you don't like those kinds of movies, why would you expect to like another of that kind of movie? It enrages me to no end. It's really a lot like walking up to a sleeping bear and throwing a rock or other hard object at it, and then being surprised when it tears you to shreds. It's like, your acting's terrible. Oh God, why? Like I said before, it's not like a comedy can't be smart or well written or well acted, but it shouldn't be viewed the same way as you would view a movie like Birdman or Nightcrawler or even a movie like Transformers. It's a completely different type of movie and shouldn't be viewed through the same requirements as you would those types of movies. It's just not meant to be seen that way. It's a dumb comedy, and it never tried to say it was anything besides that. As long as it made you laugh, it's immediately. As long as it made you laugh consistently, I should say, because if you laugh once, that doesn't mean it's a good movie. If it made you laugh consistently throughout the entire movie, even if it had some bad jokes, as long as most or at least half of the jokes are good, it should be considered an okay movie. If the acting is great and the writing is amazing, that's just a bonus. That's great, fantastic. But if it's terrible or if it's just horrible plot that doesn't really make any sense, that's usually on purpose. It's it's just how it's meant to be. Of course, it's going to be that way. It's like walking into a Transformers movie and not expecting robots. What else would be in a Transformers movie about transforming robots? And that's exactly what Pixels was. A comedy movie filled to the brim with nostalgia. and it made me laugh quite a bit. Most of it was just small chuckles, but there were even a couple moments where I just died. I died laughing, and that's a good thing. That automatically means it did its job. It did exactly what it intended to do. It succeeded, and like I said before, it's by no means a great movie, but it was decent to say the least. It wasn't that bad. And to wrap this up before this entire review becomes a rant about critics, let me just give you an example of what I mean. A dumb comedy is intended to be dumb, so you shouldn't knock off points because it's dumb, as long as it's funny. That means it did its job. But a perfect example of a dumb comedy that did its job poorly and should have points knocked off is the Super Mario Bros. Movie. It sold itself as a dumb comedy and an adaptation, but it wasn't funny at all, and it was a horrible adaptation. But Pixels sold itself the same exact way, but, well, I mean, an adaptation of a short film is kind of hard to grade, so to speak, but it was at least a little bit funny, which means it's automatically better than a piece of trash like these critics are trying to say they are. It is. And I know there's going to be a lot of people who disagree with me here, but the fact that the fan ratings are so much higher than the critics' ratings only serves to support my point, because of 19% to 93%, it's not a gap that you could just chalk up to chance or different taste. It shows that critics aren't viewing some movies the way they should be viewed. And that's not a good thing, because you're starting to influence people's opinions about them. You're not even giving the people a chance to see the movie and judge it for themselves, because they sell themselves. They sell their opinions as fact. And that's not a good thing. It's a bad thing. Alright, before this view becomes a rant about critics, because I could go on about this for hours, I'm just going to get on with the review. First of all, let me just say, I'm not a huge Sandler fanboy. I loved his older movies, but recently they've all been kind of mediocre, and I honestly think he's done. I don't think he's ever going to rise back up to his previous fame, because in this movie, he was moderately funny, but I could see in his eyes, he just looks tired. He looks miserable all the time. Even when he's smiling, his eyes just look dead. And that kind of took away from some of the comedy, and it just made me feel, nah, he's probably done. We're probably not going to see much more epic movies from Adam Sandler. But overall, I really enjoyed the movie. I love Tyrion, Peter Dinklage. He's one of my favorites, especially in Game of Thrones, my favorite character, and I love his actor. And he was great in the movie. He was hilarious. Every word he said was so ridiculous that I couldn't help but chuckle. Josh Gad, he was also a pretty ridiculous character, and the way he ended with this movie, his ending was just perfect. It was hilarious, and Adam Sandler's comment on it was probably one of the best jokes in the movie. I don't want to have a spoiler part segment to this review, because I don't really have any specific details that I want to talk about. Because, like I said before, it's a comedy. It made me laugh, and that's probably all you really need to know. It was funny. It was moderately funny. Not the funniest thing ever, but it was funny. And I think that's good enough. The actors did a decent job. Adam Sandler looked dead, but he still made me laugh a couple times. The female character, she kind of annoyed me at first. She overreacted to something, but it wasn't that bad, and it was kind of understandable considering her situation. Um, and that's about it. So Toru Iwatani's the creator of Pac-Man. His cameo was great as the trailer made us think it was. And probably the last thing I'm going to say about this movie is that it did nostalgia decently. It really rubbed it in your face. It was like, oh, look at how old this is. Don't you feel old? But it didn't do it so badly. It really made me miss my childhood. I loved Pac-Man as a kid. It was one of my favorite games. Same with Galaga. Galaga was my game. I played that for hours on end, losing immediately because I was so bad at it, but I loved it anyway. And at the same time, though, it wasn't so nostalgic that only old people could enjoy it. I feel like there were some kids in the theater with me, unfortunately, but they seemed to be laughing too. So that makes me think that even though they don't really get all the references, it's enjoyable for everybody. So that's really a good thing. That's actually pretty good. No, and some of the reviews saying, oh, it was too nostalgic. It's just so nostalgic. You shouldn't watch it because it's so nostalgic. That's not necessarily a bad thing though, and I don't think it was that seriously nostalgic. It was entirely about nostalgia, but I don't think it was so much so that you couldn't enjoy it otherwise. Yeah, I don't really have much else to say about this movie. It made me laugh. It did its job, and that's a good thing. I liked it. It wasn't amazing, but it wasn't as bad as most reviews would have you think. But it did its job as as well as a movie about aliens bringing video game characters to life to attack the Earth could probably do. um, and yeah, I don't really have much else to say, so peace out.